Amen. Why don't you give a high five to the person beside of you? I know we're getting close to midterms, and just say, you got it this week. You've got it next week. I believe in you. You look nice today. You smell good. That's a way to start a Monday, right? Well, my name is Spencer Loman. I serve as the discipleship pastor here at Indiana Wesleyan. And thank you for that affirmation. I appreciate that. And I just want you to know that I love spending time with college students. And if you ever have the desire to get coffee or a meal or hang out, feel free. Like, I am totally open, would love to get to know you and spend some time with you. I am glad that Lena ripped the Band-Aid off, talking about the game last night. However, I do believe that we need to pray for the city of Philadelphia over the next few days, that it does not burn to the ground in celebration. Am I right? Like, Eagles fans are wild. There's one right there. Wild. But it was kind of cool to watch, was it not? I mean, let's be honest. Fly, Eagles, fly, right? Okay. I'm a Panthers fan, and we're still trying to figure out if we're actually a professional football team or not. So, that's my life. But anyway, we've been in this Judges series over the last few weeks looking at 300 plus years in the life of Israel, 1,000 years before Jesus, and there's just so much disorder and dysfunction and chaos that's happening. And we're going to spend some more time looking at Judges this morning. But before we do, I wanted to acknowledge something. There are two social phenomenons that I have noticed since coming back to this place. The first thing is all y'all are married. Like, the MRS degree is an accelerated degree now here at Indiana Wesleyan. You can get it in 2 years or 3. Used to be 4. Now it's just 2 years, and you can get an MRS degree. Like, it's not even ring by spring anymore. It's just ring. That's it. That's it. The only residence hall that's overflowing with students right now is married housing. It's insane, to be honest. Not knocking, I'm just saying. It's a phenomenon. The second thing is that so many of you guys have tattoos. Like, if you have a tattoo on it, just confess it right now. Raise your hand. Come on. Like, when I was a student a decade ago, we all knew the 3 kids that had tattoos on campus. We all did. And all the faculty did, all the professors did. We weren't quite sure if they followed Jesus or not. But now all y'all got tattoos. Half of STM has tattoos. It's interesting. And I will say, I do have quite a few tats myself. I don't like getting them, though. No one likes getting tattoos. You like having tattoos. Am I right? I just call tattoos conversation starters. That's all I call them. And I'll be honest, if you're opposed, that's fine. My wife is too. We're still married, praise God. But if I'm a betting man, some of you have some tattoos that you regret. You saw a walk-ins welcome sign. You walked in, and you got a $30 tattoo plus an infection for free. Am I right? Your friends are like, what is that, man? Is that a cloud? No, it's a dog. Interesting. However, have you seen those pictures? I'm fascinated with these pictures of tattoos that are reworked into something beautiful. Like bad tattoos, man. Turned into something awesome. I have a friend back in North Carolina who not too long ago got a tattoo, no joke, of if you know what Bojangles is, anybody know Bojangles? Yeah, okay, come on. It's a southern delicacy. Yes. He got a tattoo of a Bojangles Bowberry biscuit. Not even kidding. Why did you do that, my friend? Why? But there are these artists who are fantastic at reworking tattoos. and making them into something quite remarkable. And if you haven't picked up on it, as we've gone through Judges, you're like, where is he going with this analogy here? If you haven't picked up on it, in the book of Judges, this story and these stories aren't exactly a Hallmark movie. In fact, on the surface, Judges is rather violent, disturbing, and even rather sinister. No doubt in my mind that if Judges was turned into a film, it would be rated R and might make 300 seem like Cocomelon. It's disturbing. But what I love about the Bible is it never allows for us to escape reality. It actually rubs our noses deeper into reality of the human condition, into human brokenness. And Judges shows us that very clearly. It's a hot mess in Judges. Yet underneath, if you look close enough, you will see the artistic hand of God working not only through the mess, but with the mess. God, we must remember, is not only master, but he's also the master artist and creator. Though a tattoo might be permanent, it is not unchangeable. Though there are things that have happened in your life that are permanent, it does not mean that your life isn't unchangeable. God works in and through and even with the mess and makes something remarkable. If he can work with nothing, if he can work out of nothing, he can work with anything, including you and I. And despite the horror of this book and the spiral that we continue to see, if we conceptualize it more like a tunnel slide, you know those tunnel slides on playgrounds? If we conceptualize it as a tunnel slide on a playground, I think that we are able to cling to the hope of God working in the chaos. Because though a slide gets dark, it ultimately ends in light. Today, we just happen to turn a bit deeper into the dark. We turn the corner in the slide where it feels as though there is no light from the beginning or at the end. Let's go to Judges chapter 10, verse 6. It reads this. Again, someone say again. Again, the Israelites did evil in the eyes of the Lord. Now, this exact phrase occurs 7 times throughout the book in very strategic places. Again, 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 unveiling the cyclical nature of the book. They serve the Baals, the Ashtoreths, and the gods of Aram, the gods of Sidon, the gods of Moab, the gods of the Ammonites, and the gods of the Philistines. This is the word of the Lord. Now, we all know that there are great debates in our time, great disagreements, and even division in our time. One great debate, however, seems to, I think, outweigh all the others in terms of eternal theological impact. A debate of upwards of 2 decades at this point. One we constantly broached when we were pastoring in North Carolina. That is the debate between Moe's and Chipotle. Some are saying that's not even a debate. Oh, but it is, friends. But it is. Major debate. How many of you, quick survey, how many of you are Chipotle fans? Just give a shout. Wow, okay. All right. How many of you are the Moe's fans in the house? It is, in fact, a debate, friends. Take note. I will say this. I used to be a Chipotle guy. Heh. But then the E. coli situation happened. Yeah, exactly. Facts don't lie, friends. And I'm a betting man that if Moe's had the aesthetics of Chipotle, you would like Moe's better. But I know, it's a rather fierce debate. I have been converted to Moe's, however. But despite this hostile debate, one thing does remain constant. Both of these concepts are built on customization. Supposedly, based on a Moe's advertisement, Moe's has 17 quintillion combinations. Customization. And this sort of customization plagued Israel. And it plagues us in 2025. A sort of theological customization. Sometimes referred to as syncretism. Syncretism. In fact, Dr. Kalaga talked about syncretism last semester, where we merge various ideas, practices, and thoughts from different, often contradicting belief systems to form our own custom theological burrito bowl. The text reveals in Judges chapter 10 that the Israelites served at least 7 different deities of other people groups across the region. And they do it right in front of Yahweh. They cheat on Yahweh right in front of his face. Judges chapter 3 mentions that the Israelites forgot the Lord. Forgot the Lord. But in Judges chapter 10, and a few verses down, it says they forsook the Lord. This quote is often attributed to G.K. Chesterton, but I think it helps us when we consider what's happening in Judges and what happens in our time. When someone stops believing in God, they don't believe in nothing. They believe in anything. Forgetting is always the first step of forsaking. The pattern for Israel was faithfulness, unfaithfulness, forgetfulness, forsaking. To separate, to walk away, to break up. Often due to this sort of amalgamation of pulling from these different deities in their lands. This very well could have been unconscious for Israel, and sometimes it is for us. But the human tendency, we must acknowledge, under threat, is to always follow the herd. Humans have a sort of mob mentality when we face anxiety and pressure. We just go with the consensus. Everyone's doing it, so we do it. Israel, no different. Instead of representing the character of Yahweh to the nations as they were called to do, they actually take on the character of the nations. Maintaining their identity as Israel, a unique people chosen by Yahweh, but they begin to look and behave like all of the religions and their deities around them. They experience what the theologian Mildred Bangs Wynkoop calls a credibility gap, where there's a distinction and a dissonance between what you believe and how you behave. And if we're honest, we see that tension in our time even today. I think one of the greatest temptations for the church, one of the greatest temptations for Gen Z, millennials, Xers, and boomers, it doesn't matter the generation, isn't Jesus or, but Jesus and. Theological customization with a twist of Christianity. Ben Sixsmith, who is a non-Christian journalist, a British journalist, wrote a piece in The Spectator on this very observation a few years ago. Consider these sobering words from Six Smith in this article and how eerily similar they are to Israel 3,000 years ago. He says, if Christians share 90% of my lifestyle and values, then there is nothing especially inspiring about them. Instead of making me want to become more like them, it looks very much as if they want to become more like me. After this moment, Israel then becomes enslaved and oppressed for 18 years. They're getting along with all these different people groups around the region, and they soon are enslaved and oppressed for 18 years by the people of the very deities they had started worshiping. Which tells us that we don't just control what we worship controls us as well. Israel then repents for a split second. Yahweh is moved in compassion by their misery. And the next major judge is raised up to take on the Ammonites. However, it isn't one chosen by God, but chosen by the people out of desperation. Let's go to Judges chapter 11. Judges chapter 11, verse 1 and 2. Jephthah, which can we just say, that's a horrible name. Never name your son Jephthah. I have misspelled that word all week long. Like, can you imagine being a substitute teacher going through a roll trying to pronounce Jephthah? It's horrible, all right? So let's just agree it's a tough name. He was, however, a mighty warrior. His father was Gilead. His mother was a prostitute. Gilead's wife also bore him sons, and when they were grown up, they drove Jephthah away. You are not going to get any inheritance in our family, they said, because you are the son of another woman. I want to propose to you today that Jephthah's family is a microcosm of the larger family of Israel. His mother is a prostitute, and so are his people. He is not only born into chaos, but is literally born out of chaos. Adultery, desecration, rejection, greed, separation, brokenness. Verse 2 says he won't get any inheritance, which is an economic reference, but Jephthah inherits every bit of the unhealth and dysfunction of his family. He will do anything for power, recognition, and acceptance. In family systems theory, if any of you were in like marriage and family classes or in psychology, this is called multi-generational transmission process. Big phrase, I understand. But this is where family dynamics are passed down from generation to generation. When someone says, you act just like your daddy, that's multi-generational transmission process. Where character traits are inherited, habits are inherited, there's emotional reactivity that's inherited, relational patterns are inherited from those who have gone before us. Some argue it's even at a genetic level, aka nature shaping nurture. In other words, no one, including Jephthah, including you, including me, is born a clean slate. Which is why we must consider our family of origin and name some of these dynamics in order that they might be broken. Name some of these habits in our family of origin. Name some of these character traits. Name some of these relational patterns. Pete Scazzaro is famous for saying in his book, Emotionally Healthy Spirituality, Jesus may be in your heart, but grandpa is in your bones. We must acknowledge these patterns because you might be just like your earthly dad, but we are to become like our heavenly dad. Jephthah then finds himself essentially on the street. Growing up in a different neighborhood, in a different part of the region, becoming a sort of mafia gangbanger. And some believe a mercenary who was paid to fight. Jephthah was a bad dude, man. Like, he was just a bad dude. I just want you to think of like Deadpool. Like, that's Jephthah. Wolverine, that's Jephthah. Bad dude, good fighter, and got paid to do it more than likely. But one thing's for sure about Jephthah is that he knew how to negotiate. He knew how to get what he wanted. Anybody here just really enjoy negotiating? Like, you like arguing just for fun. Some of you, yeah. I love going to car lots and just negotiating for fun. No intention to buy a car, I just negotiate with them. You know? They're like, we can't go any lower on the price. I'm like, okay, see you later, buddy. 24 hours later, here comes the phone call. I love to negotiate. And Jephthah's really good at it. He's really good at it. Could have been a great salesman. In the story, there's at least 3 negotiations that Jephthah walks through. One with his people to be their commander, considering that they actually rejected him at a young age. One with the Ammonites themselves. He tries to be all diplomatic and whatnot. And the other is with Yahweh. Judges 11, verses 29 through 31. Listen to this, the dissonance in these few verses. Then the Spirit of the Lord came on Jephthah, which we have seen throughout Judges. Though in previous times, the Lord's choosing people, now the people are choosing Jephthah, and the Spirit of the Lord is coming on him. He crossed Gilead and Manasseh, passed through Mizpah of Gilead, and from there he advanced against the Ammonites. He's making progress. He's making moves. And then it says, Jephthah made a vow to the Lord. He begins to negotiate. He says, if, notice the angst, the anxiety. If you give the Ammonites into my hands, whatever comes out of the door of my house to meet me when I return in triumph from the Ammonites will be the Lord's, and I will, check this out, sacrifice it as a burnt offering, which is condemned in Levitical law for the people of Israel. From there, Jephthah and his army defeat the Ammonites with ease. They blow them out. A victory is won, but a vow has been made. And what follows is one of the most disputed, talked about, wrestled with moments in all of Scripture. Rather painful and provocative. It might be the most painful and provocative moment in the entire book of Judges. When Jephthah arrives back home, guess who comes out to greet him? His young daughter. In celebration, dancing with a tambourine. Can you imagine the scene? Can you imagine the moment? We actually had Bryn Mealy, shout out to Bryn, illustrate for us this moment. So I want you guys to take a look at it on the screen to get a feel for how this would have looked. If we can get it up there, that'd be awesome. The anguish. Jephthah has just won. He's going to become commander and ruler. But he also made a vow. Here's what happened as we begin to wrap up. Jephthah knew the story of Israel, knew Yahweh's deliverance, knew Yahweh's power, but he didn't know Yahweh's character. He had been so formed by pagan worship and practices that he mistaked God's character for the character of a Canaanite god, one marked by child sacrifice, mistaking obedience with transaction, presence with profit, intimacy with an IOU. He literally gained the world and lost his soul. Hosea chapter 6, verse 6 says, I want you to show love, not offer sacrifices. I want you to know me more than I want burnt offerings. As one commentator put it, Jephthah had good faith and bad theology. He was committed, but he had a misunderstanding. Good faith, bad theology. And some of us in this room and in this community have good faith and bad theology. As A.W. Tozer put it, what comes into our minds when we think about God is the most important thing about us. Many of us talk about the importance of good faith and maybe forget theology. But in this scenario, Jephthah forgets the character and nature of God. He exhibits good faith, but his bad theology forces him to make a mess. Strong faith is one thing, friends, but we must have a proper understanding of the nature and character of God. In the incarnation, we actually see the character of God on display. This story is eerily similar to the story of Jesus, where God enters into the chaos, enters into the gap, enters into the evil, enters into the break. And like Jephthah, Jesus was born into controversy. Like Jephthah, Jesus was rejected. Like Jephthah, the Spirit was on him. Like Jephthah, Jesus was victorious. Yet Jephthah made a vow to God, and Jesus submitted himself to God. Jephthah grabbed at power, Jesus gave up power. Jephthah sacrificed his daughter, Jesus sacrificed himself. Listen, friends, God doesn't want your vow, he wants your now. He doesn't want your offer, he wants your life. He doesn't want a negotiation, he wants intimacy. He wants you to know him. And I'll wrap up with this. The word chaos originally meant a void or a wide gap. Immeasurable space, wide open. And Jephthah's name actually means, check this, he opens. So here are 3 questions for us today. Where is there chaos in your life? Where is there a gap? Where is there a gap maybe in what you believe and how you behave? How you've been formed by culture and the invitation of Jesus in terms of how we live? Where is there chaos in your family? Where are there gaps in your family? Where is there brokenness in your family? Name it. Maybe even write it down today. Speak to someone about it. And the third is, where is there chaos in your theology? Where are there gaps in your theology? Listen, gaps aren't bad. Openness isn't bad. The question is, what fills the gap? And because Jephthah had a misunderstanding of God, what filled the gap was child sacrifice. As you go today, I simply want you to wrestle with those questions. Where is there chaos in your life? Where is there chaos and where is there a gap in family? And where is there chaos in theology? Your theology in particular. You are sent this morning.